So when you come up to Westminster, you don't tend to think of this place that we're going to today. You tend to think of this place, that's Westminster Abbey in the background. You think of the Palace of Westminster, that's the House of Commons, the House of Lords. You think of Parliament Square, you think of all the amazing places around here, but you don't think of this place. By the way, this once used to be a moat which flowed in from the River Thames. Yes, we're looking today at the Jewel House. Under the shadow of this, the Victoria Tower, which is the big tower that stands proud at the end of the Palace of Westminster. And not only have you got the tower, you've got this beautiful wild garden as well. So, in today's video, let's go inside. Let's look back at the history and see how they used this, the Jewel Tower of Westminster. So we're going to start here on the second floor, and as you can see, it was constructed in 1365. So if you think way back when, yeah, that's nearly 1,000 years ago. And the Jewel Tower was actually built at the time for the king to store his personal treasures in. Yeah, not at the Tower of London. Actually, they were stored here, and it was his personal wealth. Now, this is what the area around here looks like now in wood. So here you're looking at the Palace of Westminster. That's just over the road. You've got Westminster Abbey, which is that big building we're looking at here, and you can see where the Jewel Tower is. Yes, it's that little building. So really, you've got to walk right round the side to be able to find it. So that's what the area looks like now, and you can see the Thames over there to the right. But then, if you look at how it was before, you can still see the Thames to the right of the old Palace of Westminster, and just look how small that was in comparison. You can still see Westminster Abbey, but you can see the Jewel Tower, and you can see where the Thames came in and filled the moat around the Jewel Tower to make it a safe place to the king, at that time, to store his treasures. Now I hope you'll agree by the end of this video, this is a delight to come to, and you can just imagine way back when. Also, there's a small admission charge for coming in. I think it was about £7 or £8, but if you're a member of English Heritage, like me, you can get in here for free, but it's well worth coming in to have a look. Right, let's give you some history of the Jewel Tower. So, constructed between 1365 and 1366, which, let's face it, 1 year's construction at that time was very, very fast, it was built to house the personal treasure of King Edward III. Now, the original tower was a 3-storey stone building which occupied a secluded part of the palace and was protected by the moat, which was linked to the River Thames, which we showed you in the map just now. Now, the ground floor featured elaborate vaulting, which was described by a historian as an architectural masterpiece, and the tower continued to be used storing the monarch's treasure and personal possessions until 1512, when a fire in the palace caused King Henry VIII, there you go, he knew he was going to be in there somewhere, to relocate his court to the nearby Palace of Whitehall. Now, the thing I love that they've done here is they've given you a bit of the old history as well. So if you're coming here and you can't remember it, don't worry, you're going to get a refresher as you walk around. And how about this? These are just some of the things that they found in the moat. So you've got old pipes, which are always cropping up, and lots of people that mudlark. That's basically the people that walk down the side of the Thames when the tide has gone out, and you've got to have a license to do that. Find lots and lots of these. Plus you've got also lots of other different bits of ceramics. Something I'd also suggest that you do when you're coming in here is also have a good look out the windows, because I bet you so many people do forget to do that. And look at this view of the Palace of Westminster and the Victoria Tower sitting proudly over the road. So the palace here, which used to store the jewels, then had different uses over the years, and at the end of the 16th century, the House of Lords began to use the tower to store its parliamentary records, building a house alongside it for the use of the parliamentary clock, which followed extensive improvements in 1621. So just a minute ago we showed you some of the discoveries that have been found in the moat, but how about this? And I love that sword from AD 800, which was found in the moat outside. And whilst a lot of the sword has rusted away and it's broken there, just look at that detailing up on the top right hand part. Also, if you're thinking of coming up here, do take care to notice that in each of the floors you've got these areas here, which you've got a little sign there saying low doorway, but it gives you more of an aspect of what the old jewel house looked like, with replicas of the old jewels. As you walk around, not only have you got these posters all on the walls giving you the history, but you've also got some audio commentary as well of scenes being played out. And included within that is the part about looking after the king's treasures and why this spoon got broken. So going back to the history of the tower, and the tower continued as the Lord's Record Office through the 18th century, and several renovations were carried out to improve its fireproofing and comfort, creating the present appearance of the tower. Now, it was one of only 4 buildings to survive the burning of Parliament in 1834, after which the records were moved to the Victoria Tower. So that's that big one that overlooks from the Palace of Westminster, which was built for the purpose of storing archives, and part of the then new neo-Gothic Palace of Westminster. So this piece of narrative here gives you an idea of what else the tower was used for, but we'll look at more of that when we go downstairs to the first floor. Now, one of the things I love doing when I come to old places like this, which are just steeped in history, is not just standing here and looking at the bits they've got on display, but also just looking at the architecture, looking at the walls, looking at the ceilings, and just thinking, wow, how long this place has been around, but really just taking it in. And I just love the size of that door, because it just goes to show you how small people were at the time. Right, now it's time to talk about accessibility, which basically means it's not accessible here at all. If you've got a wheelchair, pushchair or anything else like that, you're not going to be able to get up because they haven't got any further access. And access is only via this steep spiral staircase. And I love the way the doormat tells you what was here. So here you had the original clerks looking after the paperwork from the House of Commons or the Palace of Westminster, but also you had this thing called counters, and this was the official weights and measures place, and we'll tell you more about that in a couple of ticks. So in 1869, the Jewel Tower was taken over by the newly formed Standard Weights and Measures Department, which used it for storing and testing official weights and measures. The tower became less and less suitable for this work as passing traffic from outside increased, and by 1938 the department had given up on it in favour of other facilities, because basically the traffic was going past vibrating the whole Jewel Tower, which basically means if you're trying to weigh something and use official weights and measures, you can't really keep them still, so the vibration was really affecting the work that they were doing here. If you're coming up here with young children, this is the floor with interactive bits and pieces. So here you can actually find out and weigh different things to see if actually the weights and measures are correct. Plus also further round, you've also got an interactive screen as well. And I love this. These are old sets of weights and measures. And these are measuring things which were used by the government officials to check that pharmacists were measuring and dispensing the correct amount of medicine. So all of this stuff was used and tried here. And I love the set of grain weights which were used as a basic weight in the imperial system of grain. Fascinating to see the old measures and the way they used to make sure that everything was actually measured and weighed up right, as a sort of audit check by the government at the time. Once again, here on the first floor, just taking in the surroundings, and look at that old fireplace which would have been used to keep the people warm that were in here. And it's worth stopping to get extra bits of history and some of the old documents that used to be stored here, and some samples which are down below, and some history behind them as well. Now my suggestion would be, if you're coming here, is to allow plenty of time, really just to soak it all in. Now the great thing is, whilst you start on the second floor and then you go down to the ground floor, there's nothing stopping you from going round time and time again, just to absorb it and take it in. I did see a number of people sort of dart through, and they were probably here for about no more than about 10 minutes, so they really have missed out on some of the different areas. So take your time if you're coming here, allow a bit of time, and then of course you can always finish off with a coffee downstairs. And also you can sit outside, they've got tables all set out there, so if it's a lovely day you can go outside and have your coffee out there and just look back at the tower. Now, whilst the tower's had lots of renovations and lots of things done to it since it was originally built, one of the things they've got here, which you've got to stop and look at here on the first floor, is this door with the numbers 1621, which was the year of installation that it was actually put in here. So you're looking at an original piece of door furniture here. So yes, you can touch it, and it really does feel special. And can you see around the key, you've got the I and the R. These were the letters that signified King James I. So in this room it tells you about the parliamentary records, and as we swing around you see that recess there, that was originally the toilet that would have been built in the 1500s for the people that were working here. Then as you look round the room, you've got this window here with the security shutters on it, which would have been used to stop people from getting in, because whilst there are no windows on the ground floor to stop people from getting in, they did have windows on the first and the second floors, and they did put extra security measures in on some of them. This display here just gives you some of the ideas of some of the old records that they used to keep in here. And what you can do is an interactive part, as you'll see in just one second. And you can see there you go, you've got the replica of the death warrant of King Charles I, which of course was done over in Whitehall by Horse Guards Parade. And then you can look at more of the different documents that were held here as well. For me, this tower is such a find, dating back to 1365. It just sits there, and really probably get about 30,000 people come and visit it a year, which is not that many people. So here we're on the ground floor, which has now been turned into a shop and a cafe, but you can also see they've got various measures which would have been used here as well. And we're also going to show you the ceiling and some of the different decorations that they've got on the ceiling as well, because as I always say, look up and you'll see some amazing things. Just look at some of these up here in the vaulted ceiling. Looking at some of these just takes me back to the Tower of London, and especially we covered that fairly recently here on the channel, underneath the Bloody Tower, where they had some of the original roof from the vault roof decorations that they had there as well. Then as you can see as we swing round, not only have we got more of the roof with these as well, but there you go, you can see the gift shop, and also you've got a little cafe area as well. Now it's also worth spending some time outside and having a good look round. As you can see, that was Westminster Abbey. You've got some of the back here of Westminster Abbey as well, and here we go, you can see the jewel house in its entirety, and you can see with the moat, which has now been well and truly filled in and gravelled up, so that would have been really deep at the time, where the moat actually comes up to the jewel tower, which was used of course at that time to protect it. Also, it's well worth taking a walk around as well. As you can see, you've got plenty of benches so you can sit on a lovely day and watch the world go by and just absorb the history around you, but also ducking under the trees and you get round to the other side, which brings you out right by College Green, but you can see the moat in its entirety and just sort of almost take yourself back. And what I also love is you've got that gated grill area at the end of where the Palace of Westminster is over the other side of the road, where you can see really where the Thames used to flow in from. So what did you think to the Jewel Tower? Had you heard of it before? That's the one away from the Tower of London, of course, because we've all heard of that one. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed that. I've done a video previously, the Palace of Westminster, and bits that we can film, and I've put a link to that up in the top right-hand corner. So if you click on that, I'll see you in there.